Hi guys, welcome to Finding Sanctuary. My name is Karen. I just wanted to give you a little update on an Oracle deck that I've been working with in February. So in January, I worked with the Cosmic Oracle. In February, I'm working with the Oracle of Portals by Tess Whitehurst. Now, this is an absolutely beautiful deck and one that I'm really enjoying working with. But the biggest thing that I've noticed since I've switched from the January deck to the February deck is in January, I did my daily card readings and I was able to really flow with that. And that found a really lovely rhythm and pace for me and was really inviting. When it came to February and the Oracle of Portals, I started off doing my daily card readings, but I quickly found that my focus shifted with this deck. And even though I'm pulling a card every day, the Oracle of Portals isn't a deck where I'm pulling the card and taking the message on. It's a deck that I found myself journaling with. So I know moving forward that this will be one of my journaling decks and that's how I will use it. But as it is the deck that I'm using in February, I'm running with where it's leading me, and it is leading me towards journaling each day, which I'm finding really a really lovely process. So one of the days I got the sunset card. I linked into the fact that the sunset card was allowing me to focus and envisage what might be drawing towards a beautiful and natural end within my life. And the questions that came up for me is, what part of my life experience is coming towards a natural end? And that really had me looking at things that were going on and how they were figuring into my life, and was there something that was naturally coming to an end that I wasn't quite aware of. When I was journaling around that question, the next one that came up for me is, how could I benefit most from letting go of it at this time? So I felt that as the sunset was setting, it was something that was naturally coming to an end and that I maybe didn't want that to occur. So how could I benefit most from letting go of it at this time? And that led to the question, do I need to shift my focus on that particular experience from being one of grief, which is where I felt I was sitting at that point in time, so that it went from being an experience of one of grief for the end that was in sight that I really didn't want to reach, or did I want to be more compassionate, I guess, for and accepting of the beauty of the experience and the encounter it provided and personal development that I experienced due to that experience, so that I could actually appreciate the fact that it had come to a natural end and the sun was now setting on that experience, and that it was time to move on. And through journaling around the fact of, do I need to shift my focus from being one of grief to one of more acceptance and gratitude for the experience, I was able to naturally shift my focus to be more accepting of the experience that this seemed to be illuminating for me on this particular day. Now, another card that I got, and I got this more than once, which was quite interesting, I got the past card. So when this card came up for me, the questions that I started journaling with is, how might my past experience be showing up for me today? How can I draw upon my past experience, especially the trauma and my understanding of that, to help me navigate a situation I was currently experiencing? And I found that really powerful. When I started journaling with that question, I found that the answers that started flowing were really powerful. And then what came from that journaling question for me personally was, are there any parallels in a situation I find myself in today with the experience in my past? And by journaling through that, I was able to see that there was, and the next question that came for me is, what lesson might be repeating itself and how can I learn from that? So the next card that I got the next day was graduation. So for me, when I was sitting with this card, the journaling questions that came through is, what area of my life has currently ended and needs to be celebrated? And as you can see, the flow on from these cards is incredible. So I was looking at this transition here from what was being having the sun set on through to the experience ending, and that was what I was looking at when I was journaling with this question. So what area of my life has currently ended and needs to be celebrated? I was writing about that particular experience. And then as I was doing that, the question that came up is there an area in my life I've learned all that I need to know or gain skills in that requires no more learning? So I was looking at my life and saying, okay, there's a graduation here. So what area of my life have I learned everything? Do I need to move on? How does that show up for me? And then when I was journaling with that, all of a sudden I got the question that came forward of, what actions do I need to complete to be able to graduate to the next chapter of my life, learning and growth? So I could see in my journaling that there was a particular area where I had no more learning to be done, but there was another area where I felt I was almost at the end of that experience. So by asking what actions do I need to complete to be able to graduate to the next chapter of my life, learning and growth through that particular experience, was a question that came up, and I did a lot of journaling around that. And on the same day and the same card, I put the question, is there any area where I feel I know everything? Am I being led to acknowledging this? Do I need to stop and take time to celebrate these achievements? So this graduation card had me really looking at all those kind of things in my life. Now, sometimes when I pull a card and I feel compelled to journal with it, I may have one question that comes up, and sometimes I don't even understand why that question has come up, but I do journal with it, and from that some other questions do flow. Sometimes it's only one question, but most of the time one question will lead to another, which will lead to another, and I just write them down and I journal with them until I feel that there's no more questions to be asked on that particular day. So this card here is Trust. It's another card I got, which was at a different time and space to these others, but definitely in the month of February. So this is a trust card. And when this came up, I can see here that, you know, she's out on this energy, out from the cliff. She's trusting the process. She's believing in herself. And this card had me asking questions around, where am I placing my trust? Is my trust warranted? Is my trust misplaced? Do I trust myself enough? Do I trust my abilities enough? They're the questions that came up for me on this day, and I found them really interesting, how they led from one to the other and the response that came through and the insight through the journaling. Things like, am I trusting the right people? Am I in a position of trust? Do people trust me with information? Another card that I got was Choice. Now, I really love this card. It has 3 different paths here that you can choose from. And what I love about this is you're standing here and you're able to see them very clearly, and each path is illuminated, and you can stand there and you can choose which one you want to take. So this had me asking questions about, what paths do I have in front of me? Which ones really lead to where I want to be? Are some of them false paths, as in, do they take me into spaces that I'm going to enjoy, but are they really going to get me to where I wish to go? Or is that path more of a dead end and something that I'm going to have to return back from? Now, when those questions came up for me, if a path was a dead end, that doesn't necessarily mean to me that it's not a good path to go down. Just means that it's going to take a lot more time and energy for me to be able to come back onto my main path and move forward. So I really liked this card when it turned up. It had me write down the choices that I had in front of me and look at where they were leading, which was something that I was pretty much avoiding doing. And through journaling, I was able to be faced with that and really spend time looking at those choices and supported in knowing which choice may suit my needs best at this time. One of the other cards that I got was Victory. Now, I really love this. As you can see, there's mountains. She's high above the mountains, having a look in victory. So this brought up questions for me around, where have I been victorious in my life? Where have I managed to lift myself up and really achieve what I needed to achieve? But it also had me journaling around the question, is there a space or a situation in my life where I've jumped too high with my victory, where I've given it too much attention, or I've leaped forward without thinking about other people in my victory? Have I left others behind? So this came up in a variety of ways for me, and I found it quite interesting, and the information that came from journaling with those questions were quite informative as well. I'll just show you one more card that I've had in February as I've been working with this deck. So this one is Freedom. So this card came up and it had me look at my situation, and it had me asking questions in my journaling around, where do I feel I need freedom? Is there places in my life where I currently feel like I'm trapped? And is that feeling of being trapped something I'm self-imposing on myself? As you can see here, the door is open. It looks like a bird cage. The door is open. She has the ability to move out and to step into that freedom, but she appears to not be making that choice right now. So it had me looking at my life and going, okay, is there areas of my life where I crave a little bit more freedom but don't have the ability to step out into that freedom, or I'm scared of stepping into that freedom? Is there a place in my life where a door has opened so that I can now embrace the freedom that I may have not been able to have before? So it brought up a lot of really great questions and had me looking at what freedom means to me. How am I accepting that freedom? How am I holding myself back from that freedom? And just how freedom shows up in my life, which was a really beautiful card to get and a beautiful experience. So there you go, guys. I just wanted to show you how this deck is working for me in February. I will do another video at the end of the month so you can see what's happening with this deck and how it's come to be. But the shift from the Cosmic Oracle, which was a daily reading, and I would read that and run with the messages that came through, to picking up this deck and finding that every time I pick it up, it's called the Oracle of Portals, but every time I pick it up, to me, it just feels like, you know, portals of opportunity. So journaling with them to see what those opportunities are and how they show up for me in my life has been such a beautiful experience.